I want to start today with something simple. Something sitting in millions of refrigerators right now. Yogurt. For years, we've been told it's one of the best foods for gut health. It's labeled probiotic rich. It's marketed as digestion friendly. Some even call it a daily essential. But lately, I've noticed something concerning. Patients come into my clinic confused. They tell me they stopped eating yogurt because social media warned them it kills probiotics if mixed with fruit. Others say they heard yogurt after dinner damages the kidneys. Some are afraid to combine it with tea or vegetables because it supposedly blocks nutrients. So today, I'm going to clear this up calmly, scientifically, and practically. Because yogurt isn't the villain, but how we use it absolutely matters. Let's begin with probiotics. The word sounds powerful, almost medicinal. But here's what most people don't realize. Not all yogurt delivers meaningful probiotic benefits. Probiotics are live microorganisms. And for them to help your body, three things must happen. They must be alive when you eat them. They must survive your stomach acid. They must exist in high enough numbers to actually make a difference. And that's where things get complicated. Just because a label says live cultures doesn't mean the product is potent. Many strains are fragile. Exposure to air, slight temperature shifts, or sitting out on the counter for too long can reduce their viability. Even repeated warming and cooling, like leaving yogurt out during breakfast prep, can gradually weaken those bacteria over time. Another common myth I hear is that acidic fruits, like pineapple or oranges, destroy probiotics. That sounds logical, Kate, but it's not how your body works. Your stomach acid is far stronger than any fruit. If a probiotic strain can survive digestion, it's not going to collapse because you added berries. However, and this is important, not all strains are equal. Some strains like Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG and Bifidobacterium animalis are acid-tolerant and well-researched. Others are added more for marketing appeal than clinical impact. So when choosing yogurt, I tell my patients to look beyond buzzwords. Look for specific strain names, transparency in labeling, clear mention of live and active cultures. Because probiotic benefits are strain-specific. One may help with lactose digestion. Another may support immune signaling. Another may influence gut-brain communication. Yogurt can absolutely support digestive health, but only when chosen wisely and consumed intentionally. And in the next section, I'm going to explain the one hidden ingredient that quietly cancels out most of yogurt's potential benefits, and it's probably in the yogurt sitting in your fridge right now. Now, let's talk about the real issue. Because when people say yogurt is unhealthy, they usually blame dairy, or they question probiotics. But in my clinical experience, that's rarely the problem. The true disruptor hiding inside most modern yogurts is refined sugar. And this is where things quietly go wrong. Many flavored yogurts contain 15 to 20 grams of added sugar per serving. That's close to what you'd find in a small candy bar. Yet the packaging still promotes gut health, immunity, or weight management. This creates a dangerous illusion, because refined sugar directly alters your gut environment. Here's what happens biologically. Sugar feeds opportunistic bacteria, the types that thrive in inflammatory conditions. Over time, this shifts microbial balance away from diversity and toward imbalance. When that diversity drops, the intestinal barrier becomes more vulnerable. And when that barrier weakens, symptoms begin to appear. Bloating, irregular bowel movements, energy crashes, cravings, brain fog. I've had patients tell me they eat yogurt daily for their gut, yet their digestive issues persist. Once we remove sweetened varieties and switch to plain yogurt, improvements often begin within weeks. This isn't theoretical, it's measurable. Refined sugar doesn't just feed harmful microbes, it also drives rapid glucose spikes. That spike triggers insulin release. Then comes the crash. Those repeated metabolic swings increase systemic stress and influence gut motility. When blood sugar fluctuates wildly, digestion doesn't function optimally. Now, here's another subtle trap. Low-fat yogurt. When manufacturers remove fat, they often compensate by increasing sugar to preserve taste and texture. So consumers believe they're choosing a lighter, healthier option when metabolically it may be more disruptive. Fat in natural yogurt actually slows digestion in a beneficial way. It promotes satiety, stabilizes blood sugar. Removing it and replacing it with sugar reverses those benefits. This is why yogurt topped with sweetened granola, syrup, or fruit compote doesn't behave like a gut-supportive food. The probiotics may still be there, but the environment they enter becomes hostile. If you truly want yogurt to support your microbiome, start with plain, unsweetened varieties. Then build flavor naturally. Fresh berries, chia seeds, ground flax, few crushed walnuts. These additions provide fiber and polyphenols, compounds that beneficial bacteria thrive on. Over time, your palate adapts. You begin to appreciate yogurt's natural temps rather than expecting it to taste like dessert. Yogurt itself isn't the problem. Refined sugar is. And when you remove that one disruptive element, yogurt can return to what it was always meant to be. A functional food that supports stability rather than creating hidden metabolic stress. In the next part, I'm going to address the myths around yogurt combinations, vegetables, tea, and the fear of nutrient blocking. Now let's address some of the food combination fears I keep hearing about. Don't eat yogurt with spinach. Never drink tea after yogurt. It blocks calcium. It kills probiotics. These claims sound scientific. They use real words like oxalates and tannins. But the conclusions people draw from them are often exaggerated. So let's calmly unpack what's actually happening. First, oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds found in foods like spinach, beet greens, and sweet potatoes. In laboratory conditions, oxalates can bind to calcium and form compounds that are less absorbable. That's true. But here's the part that gets misunderstood. Nutrition doesn't happen in a lab beaker. It happens inside a dynamic, adaptive human body. For most people eating a balanced diet, calcium absorption remains largely stable even when oxalate-containing foods are present. Unless someone consumes extremely high amounts of oxalates daily and relies on yogurt as their only calcium source, the effect is minimal. In fact, pairing yogurt with leafy greens can still be beneficial. You're getting calcium, protein, fiber, magnesium, vitamin C, and phytonutrients all in one meal. The body doesn't process nutrients in isolation, it processes patterns. Now, let's move to tea. The concern here revolves around tannins, plant compounds found in tea that can bind to certain minerals. Some online sources claim that drinking tea after yogurt destroys probiotics or cancels out benefits. There is no solid human evidence supporting that. Probiotic strains that survive your stomach acid are already adapted to harsh environments. A normal cup of green or black tea is not going to wipe them out. Interestingly, tea contains catechins, powerful polyphenols that may actually support microbial diversity. Certain compounds in green tea have been associated with encouraging beneficial strains, including lactobacillus species. So instead of viewing yogurt and tea as enemies, it may be more accurate to see them as potentially complementary, depending on the overall dietary context. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. If someone has a history of kidney stones related to oxalates, spacing high oxalate foods from calcium sources can be helpful. If someone drinks extremely concentrated tea multiple times daily on an empty stomach, mineral absorption might be slightly influenced. But these are specific scenarios, not universal rules. The bigger danger isn't yogurt with spinach or tea, it's food fear. When people start building rigid rules around partial truths, they eliminate nutrient-dense foods unnecessarily. That creates stress, and stress itself affects digestion. Gut health thrives on diversity, flexibility, and consistency. Yogurt can absolutely coexist with vegetables. It can coexist with tea. What matters far more is your long-term dietary pattern, low-sugar balanced meals, whole foods. In the next section, I'm going to explain 3 everyday mistakes that quietly reduce yogurt's effectiveness, especially around timing and meal composition. Now that we've cleared up the myths, let's talk about something far more practical. Because yogurt usually doesn't fail people due to what it is. It fails because of how it's used. Over the years, I've noticed three very common habits that quietly dilute its benefits. Let's start with the first one. Mistake number 1. Eating yogurt immediately after a heavy, high-fat meal. I see this often. Someone finishes fried food, creamy pasta, or a rich takeout dinner, and then adds yogurt as a healthy balance. It sounds logical. But digestion doesn't work that way. High-fat meals significantly slow gastric emptying. That means food sits in the stomach longer. While probiotics can survive acidic conditions, they function best when digestion moves at a steady, balanced pace. When yogurt is layered on top of a dense, oily meal, it often contributes to a feeling of heaviness rather than digestive comfort. Instead of supporting the gut, it becomes part of an already overloaded system. A better strategy: have yogurt as a standalone snack between meals when your digestive system isn't overwhelmed. In that setting, probiotics have a cleaner pathway through the gastrointestinal tract. Now, let's look at the second habit. Mistake number 2. Pairing yogurt directly after very salty foods. Think processed ramen, deli meats, canned soups, chips. Excess sodium affects fluid balance and can increase temporary bloating. When yogurt follows immediately after a high-sodium meal, people sometimes feel more discomfort and they blame the yogurt. But it's not the yogurt. It's the electrolyte imbalance created by excess salt. It's also something subtle happening here. The gut-brain axis, the communication pathway between your digestive system and nervous system, responds to taste signals. After intense sodium exposure, appetite regulation and digestive signaling can shift temporarily. Spacing yogurt at least 45 to 60 minutes away from very salty meals often reduces that uncomfortable fullness. Now for the third and probably most common mistake. Mistake number 3. Mixing yogurt with sugary breakfast cereals. This is marketed as healthy, but metabolically, it's problematic. Many boxed cereals are highly refined and contain significant added sugar. When combined with flavored yogurt, you're essentially creating a rapid glucose spike first thing in the morning. Blood sugar rises sharply. Insulin surges. Then, energy crashes. Repeated daily spikes don't support microbial diversity. They encourage sugar-loving strains while suppressing the balance yogurt is meant to improve. A smarter approach: plain yogurt with rolled oats, chia seeds, unsweetened berries, ground flaxseed. These slow digestion, stabilize blood sugar, and provide fiber that beneficial bacteria can ferment. None of these mistakes are dangerous in isolation. But when they become daily habits, yogurt's true potential never fully shows up. It's not about restriction. It's about timing, balance, and context. In the next section, I'll share what real-world data actually shows when yogurt is used consistently and correctly, and the results might surprise you. Now, let's move beyond theory, because mechanisms are helpful. But what most people want to know is this: what actually happens when someone eats yogurt regularly, the right way? When we look at real-world dietary patterns, the data becomes much clearer. In observational research tracking individuals who consumed plain unsweetened yogurt daily for several weeks, consistent changes began to emerge, particularly in digestive stability. Participants commonly reported less bloating, more predictable bowel movements, improved stool consistency, better tolerance to dairy overall. One of the more interesting findings involves lactase activity, the enzyme responsible for breaking down lactose. Certain probiotic strains found in yogurt can enhance lactase function in the gut lining. That means individuals with mild lactose sensitivity often tolerate yogurt better than milk. And when yogurt is consumed consistently, not sporadically, those adaptive improvements become more noticeable. But here's something even more compelling. When researchers analyzed stool samples in adults who added plain yogurt daily, they observed measurable shifts in microbial composition. Beneficial strains, particularly lactobacillus species, increased in relative abundance. Now, this doesn't mean yogurt completely transforms your microbiome overnight. The gut ecosystem is complex. It responds to patterns, not single meals. But regular intake creates gentle pressure toward diversity and balance. Another observation that stands out is inflammation modulation. When microbial diversity improves, inflammatory markers in the gut often decrease subtly. This doesn't produce dramatic overnight results, but over 8 to 12 weeks, participants frequently report smoother digestion and fewer reactive symptoms. And here's what I appreciate most. These changes occurred without extreme dieting. No elimination protocols, no complicated supplement stacks, no restrictive regimens. Just one consistent serving of plain yogurt integrated into a balanced dietary routine. Of course, outcomes depend on quality. Sweetened varieties don't produce the same effect. Timing still matters. Pairings still matter. But when used intentionally, yogurt becomes one of the most accessible, functional foods available. What also fascinates me clinically is the downstream effect. When digestion stabilizes, people often notice secondary improvements. More stable energy, fewer cravings, clearer skin, even improved sleep patterns. That's the ripple effect of gut balance, influencing systemic regulation. Now, I want to be very clear. Yogurt is not a miracle cure. It won't override chronic stress, ultra-processed diets, or poor sleep. But as part of a consistent pattern of whole foods, low-refined sugar, and dietary diversity, it's remarkably reliable. In the final part, I'm going to summarize everything into a clear, practical framework you can follow without overthinking every meal. Now, let's bring everything together, because yogurt doesn't need to be feared. It doesn't need to be idolized either. It simply needs to be used correctly. Here's the framework I give my patients. First, choose wisely. Look for plain, unsweetened yogurt. Check for live and active cultures. If possible, choose products that list specific strains, not just vague marketing language. Full-fat or moderate-fat varieties are often metabolically more stable than low-fat versions loaded with added sugar. Remember, when fat is removed, sugar is usually added to compensate. Second, be intentional with timing. Yogurt works best when your digestive system isn't overloaded. That means not immediately after a heavy fried meal, not layered on top of extremely salty foods, not combined with refined sugary cereals. A mid-morning or mid-afternoon snack is often ideal. Your stomach isn't overwhelmed and probiotics move through more efficiently. Third, build smart pairings. Instead of syrups and sweetened granola, think fiber and polyphenols, fresh berries, chia seeds, ground flaxseed, crushed walnuts, rolled oats. These ingredients feed beneficial bacteria rather than competing with them. Fourth, don't obsess over myths. Spinach won't cancel your calcium, tea won't kill your probiotics, fruit won't destroy your yogurt. Unless you have a specific medical condition requiring modifications, diversity is your ally, not your enemy. Finally, focus on consistency. One bowl of yogurt won't change your microbiome, but daily intentional use over 8 to 12 weeks can gently shift your gut toward greater balance. That's how physiology works, not through extremes, through repetition. And I want to leave you with something important. Food anxiety damages digestion far more than reasonable food combinations ever could. When we build rigid rules based on partial truths, we create stress. And stress directly impacts gut motility, enzyme production, and microbial balance. Yogurt is not magic. It's not harmful. It's a tool. Used correctly, it supports digestion, stabilizes energy, and contributes to microbial resilience. Used carelessly, overloaded with sugar, combined with highly processed foods, it loses its power. So keep it simple. Choose clean, pair intelligently, stay consistent. Your gut thrives on patterns, not perfection. If this shifted how you think about yogurt, I'd love to hear what surprised you most. Your experiences matter because science becomes meaningful when it connects to real life. I'm Dr. Christina Serrati, and I'll see you in the next episode.